Ready for compromise if US lifts sanctions Iran. UN chief renews push for immediate ceasefire in Sudan. Israeli cabinet approves West Bank land registration. Palestinians condemn de facto annexation. China to implement zero tariffs on imports from 53 African countries. Vietnam licenses Musk's satellite internet firm Starlink. The United Nations is fully committed to piling on pressure for an immediate ceasefire in Sudan, which has been devastated by nearly 3 years of civil war, Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said on Saturday. Since April 2023, the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces have been locked in a bitter struggle for control of the country. Google News link for all latest news. Follow the Daily Star's Google News channel. The conflict has killed tens of thousands of people and forced more than 11 million from their homes, sparking what the UN has called the world's worst humanitarian crisis. We have been very actively engaged with the African Union, with the Arab League, with the Quad and with other key actors in order to put effective pressure for an immediate ceasefire, Guterres said. We must look first of all to create the conditions to put pressure on the two parties of the conflict, he told reporters on the sidelines of an African Union summit in Ethiopia. He also stressed the need to tackle foreign actors supporting and arming both sides, some in the African continent and some outside. The United Nations says it is intensifying pressure for an immediate ceasefire in Sudan, as the country's civil war approaches its third year. UN Secretary-General Antonio Guterres said on Saturday that the organization is working closely with regional and international partners to push both sides toward ending the fighting. Since April 2023, Sudan has been engulfed in conflict between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The war has killed tens of thousands of people and displaced more than 11 million, creating what the UN describes as the world's worst humanitarian crisis. Speaking on the sidelines of an African Union summit in Ethiopia, Guterres said the UN is coordinating efforts with the African Union, the Arab League and other key actors to apply effective pressure for a ceasefire. He also warned that foreign involvement is worsening the conflict, stressing the need to address countries and groups that are supplying weapons and support to both sides. Guterres said creating unified international pressure is essential to ending the violence and easing the humanitarian catastrophe. Israel's cabinet has approved new measures to tighten control over the occupied West Bank and make it easier for Israeli settlers to purchase land, a move Palestinians have described as a de facto annexation. The West Bank is one of the territories Palestinians seek for a future independent state. Much of it remains under Israeli military control, with limited self-rule in areas governed by the Palestinian Authority. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who faces elections later this year, has repeatedly rejected the creation of a Palestinian state, calling it a security risk. His coalition includes pro-settlement parties that favor annexing the West Bank, which Israel captured in the 1967 Middle East War. The cabinet approved restarting formal land registration in the West Bank for the first time since 1967. Israeli officials said the move would improve transparency and help resolve land disputes. Far-right Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said the decision strengthens Israel's hold over the territory, while Defense Minister Israel Katz described it as a security necessity. Palestinian leaders condemned the decision, saying it paves the way for annexation and deeper settlement expansion. Israeli watchdog group Peace Now warned it could lead to Palestinians losing control over large areas of land. The United Nations top court ruled last year that Israel's occupation of Palestinian territories and settlement activity is illegal, though Israel disputes that opinion. The move has drawn renewed international criticism amid ongoing tensions over the future of the West Bank. China will introduce zero-tariff access for imports from 53 African countries with which it has diplomatic relations, starting the 1st of May 2026, state media reported on Saturday. The move will allow most African goods to enter China without customs duties, expanding Beijing's trade engagement with the continent. State television said China will also accelerate negotiations on joint economic partnership agreements and further open its market to African exports through upgraded trade facilitation tools, including its so-called Green Channel system. The policy is aimed at boosting African exports, deepening economic ties, and strengthening China's role as a key trading partner for African economies. Vietnam has granted a license to Starlink, the satellite internet service owned by Elon Musk, allowing it to begin operations in the country, a government agency said. Vietnam's Radio Frequency Management Authority said local unit Starlink Services Vietnam Company is authorized to deploy up to 4 gateway stations at a maximum of 600,000 user terminals in the initial phase. The license requires Starlink to ensure its operations do not interfere with existing radio communication networks. Vietnam has nearly 100 million people, with about 80% already using the internet, but officials say connectivity gaps remain in rural and mountainous areas, where satellite broadband could play a key role. Starlink's parent company SpaceX did not immediately comment, though Starlink lists Vietnam as coming soon on its website. The approval comes as Vietnam and the United States continue trade negotiations, following the imposition of U.S. tariffs on Vietnamese goods last year. Vietnam's top leader To Lam is expected to visit Washington this week for a meeting of President Donald Trump's so-called Board of Peace, though Hanoi has not officially confirmed the trip. Despite trade pressures, Vietnam's economy grew 8% last year, and the government is targeting double-digit growth in 2026.